pra Oslo, pra sair no Oslodum. Bloco asfro da terra do bacalhau.
Oi, tudo bem? Welcome to the first lesson in this special series I've created to help you to jumpstart your Brazilian Portuguese. I'm Professor Jason. Today I'll be teaching you about the letters and sounds of Brazilian Portuguese so you can begin to understand how spellings reflect pronunciation in this beautiful language. Então, vamos começar. Let's get started. Okay, I want to start off by saying a few words about the alphabet, how it's often or traditionally taught, and the correspondence between letters and sounds. When we first study a language, we're often introduced to the alphabet in a way that's overly simplistic and not very helpful at all. Usually we're asked to repeat the names of the letters along with examples of words beginning with each letter. This approach simplifies the relationship between letters and sounds to a point that probably does more harm than good because it gives the impression that each letter corresponds to a single sound, which simply isn't true because, here's a couple of reasons, right? Many letters represent more than one sound, and the converse of that is also true. Certain sounds can and are represented by more than one letter or combination of letters. In the case of Brazilian Portuguese, several factors can affect how a given letter is pronounced. Could be the letter's position in the word. Is it the initial and internal sound or the final sound in the word? Or the letter or sound's position in a syllable. Again, is it the initial sound, the middle or nuclear sound of the syllable, or the last or final? Another thing that can affect how a letter or sound is produced or sounds is the sound that comes right after it or immediately after the letter or sound in question, something we have to take into consideration. And then if the sound is a vowel or the letter is a vowel, we have to think about whether or not it's stressed or if it comes before or after the stressed, sometimes called the tonic syllable. So these are some reasons why we really have to dig deeper, go beyond that simplistic A is for apple, B is for boy type of approach to teaching the alphabet if we really want to understand the relationship between letters and spellings and sound and the pronunciation of words. And that's what we're going to do in this video. Alright, so now that we've got that introduction about the correspondence between letters and sounds out of the way, I thought it might be helpful to tell you what I want to do in this video. We're going to take a look at the Portuguese alphabet. I'm going to go over the names of the letters because this actually is useful, helpful to know because sometimes you need to spell out a name or a word to another person. Then I'm going to give provide some general guidelines about pronunciation in Brazilian Portuguese, and finally follow that up with multiple examples of each letter, and not just the letters but also some common two-letter combinations so that you can hear the sounds and hear how they vary depending on certain factors, some of the ones we just mentioned, such as their position in the syllable and what sounds might be after them or adjacent to them. So that's how we'll proceed. Alright then, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the alphabet of Brazilian Portuguese. Bear with me, I'm not a native speaker, so my pronunciation is not perfect. Okay. One thing to note is that since the official spelling reform of 2009, the alphabet in Portuguese consists of the same 26 letters as the standard English alphabet. So I'm going to go through each letter and pronounce its name. So the alphabet goes something like this. O alfabeto. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Alright, now having gone over the pronunciation of the letters, just let me add a few other notes about the spelling of Portuguese words, things you might see. In Portuguese, you will see what's called the C cedilha. This letter C with a squiggly line attached to the bottom of it, that's pronounced as S or S in all spellings. You'll see this later on, examples of it later on in the lesson. Secondly, Brazilian Portuguese spellings also use several two-letter or double-letter combinations, such as CH, RR, SS. You can see them on the slide here. There are quite a few of them. These two-letter combinations, you will see that they basically are pronounced as a single sound when they appear. And again, we'll see examples of these later in the lesson. And then finally, until recently, the letters K, W, and Y, or K, W, Y, were not officially recognized or included in most versions you would see of the Portuguese alphabet. They are now, however, but they're generally only used in names, the names of brands, and other words borrowed from other languages. So I just wanted to point out these three notes. What you see on this slide are some general pronunciation guidelines that refer to Brazilian Portuguese that I want to go over, so you'll keep them in mind as you're learning letters and sounds and as we go through the rest of the video. First, keep in mind that there are numerous regional and social dialects in Brazil, and some sounds are pronounced quite differently depending on regional and social differences. So not everyone in all parts of Brazil pronounces words the same. Secondly, in this video, I'm going to present the sounds as they're pronounced primarily in the Brazilian southeast region, including São Paulo. But I'll also make a couple of references to the influential Rio de Janeiro, Fluminense, or Carioca dialect as well, when it seems pertinent. The pronunciation of the consonant letters B, F, K, P, V, W, and Y are usually very similar to their pronunciations in English words, so they're easy usually. Keep in mind that vowel sounds are especially tricky in Brazilian Portuguese, so this is kind of a warning, a red flag. Pronouncing vowels can be tricky in Brazilian Portuguese. Why? Because the same vowel letter that you might see in a word can represent different vowel sounds depending on its position in a word relative to the stressed or tonic syllable and which consonant sounds follow it. Vowel sounds can also be nasalized, and you'll see some examples of these. The various pronunciations of vowels are not always marked with written accents or symbols, so that's another thing that can be very hard to predict in terms of vowel sounds, how they're pronounced. There's not always a written accent or symbol indicating that. And then finally, again, with regard to vowel sounds and vowel letters, 2 or even 3 vowels might appear together in a word. Sometimes these adjacent vowels are pronounced separately as 2 separate syllables in, for example, the words saída or saúde, and other times they're pronounced as a single syllable, as a group, right? And we call this a diphthong, or if there's 3 vowels, a triphthong. So examples might be words like oi, saiba, saudade, Paraguai, 3 vowels, averiguei, 3 vowels in 1 syllable. Alright, so before we begin going through letter by letter or combination of letters, I wanted to give you an idea of how we're going to proceed so you know what to expect. What you're going to see on the slides that follow, there are many slides, are examples of words that include, I say include because they may not begin with a letter, but they include individual letters and certain 2-letter combinations. On each slide, there's a number of words that are arranged in sets, sort of to illustrate roughly how positions of the letters or combinations of letters in the words and syllables result in different sounds. And then finally, you'll see that I'm simply going to pronounce the examples. I'm not going to provide lengthy explanations. I've done other videos like that. So I want you to just follow along, repeat each set of words, and try to get a sense for why the pronunciation of a letter or letters might vary from one set to another. Okay, so let's go ahead and get things started with the letter A or a, ato, página, cardápio, caso, uma, cama, canto, samba, mãe, são, pai, aos, mal, quase. On this slide, I know I said I wasn't going to do a lot of explanation, but just let me point out that there are 4 sets of words, 4 lines. With a vowel sound, I'm going to structure it this way. You'll have the first line corresponding to the vowel stressed, página, cardápio. Second line unstressed, as in uma. Third line nasalized, as in canto, or samba, or mãe. And then the fourth line will be the vowel adjacent to another vowel pronounced in the same syllable, a diphthong, pai, aos, mal. So that just gives you an idea of how I've put the words into different sets, illustrating variants of a sound represented by a single letter. All right, moving on to the letter B, or B, Brasil, bombeiro. Brasil, bombeiro. Next up is, of course, se, cedo, ciúme. Casa, coisa, curso. Moving on to the C cedilha. I mentioned before this has the S sound. Maçã, laços, maçã, laços. Next up is the 2-letter combination or digraph CH or CH, chegar, chato, achar. Again, chegar, chato, achar. Let's move on to D or de, data, doutor, dúzia, dia, dizer, des, depois, cidade, pode, cadê. Moving on to the letter E, ela, até, pedra, ele, mesa, vejo, tempo, vento, sim, leite ou leite, papéis, meu, céu. Let's move on to the letter F. And again, I'm not a Brazilian. My pronunciation is not perfect, but I think this will give you a good idea. Letter F, F, fofo, café. Just like in English. Fofo, café. Next up is the letter G, gente, gíria, garoto, gosta, guria, guerra, guia, aguentar, linguista. What's up next? Okay, up next is H. Hoje, história. So needless to say, it's silent always in Portuguese. Hoje, história. H is H, right? The vowel letter E. Idade, ilha, vida, limpo, inglês, sim, vim, viu, partiu, ruivo, Moving on to the letter J, or J em português. Sounds like já, jogo, junho. What's next here? Letter K, or K. Kilobyte, karaoke, workshop. Letter L, or L. Livro, logo, falta, Silvio, mal, Brasil. Let me read those again. Livro, logo, falta, Silvio, mal, Brasil. Now the two-letter combination LH, LH, milho, Júlio. Again, milho, Júlio. Moving on to M, or M, mãe, chamar, tempo, falam, sim. Let me pronounce those last two again. Pay attention. Falam, sim. Moving on to N, or N, nome, nada, penal, tanto, quente. Our next letter is a vowel letter in sound. O, 9, bola, copo, novo, boca, vontade, som, 8, coisa, outro, dou. Moving on to P, or P, papel, copo, papel, copo. Moving on, next is Q, or Q, quente, quilograma, 4, quota, frequente, pinguim. Moving on to the letter R, R. Pay attention, this one is tricky. Pay close attention. Letter R. Rua, rio, Israel, honra, para, ironia, cereja, comprar, contra, amar, cerveja, porta. You'll also see the double R written many times, and this is a digraph, a two-letter combination that has one sound. In this case, double R is pronounced as carro, cachorro, carro, cachorro. Moving on to the letter S, you see 6 or 7 sets of words, which means that the letter S has various pronunciations depending on its position. So pay attention, or that it appears in many positions. Sou, sentir, senso, falso, coisa, mesa, caras, tênis. I'm going to pronounce this set again. Caras, or caras in Rio. Tênis, or in Rio, tênis. Okay. Look at this next set. Escola, esquecer, esperar, estudar, os senhores, as folhas. Now I'm going to pronounce it like they might pronounce it in the Fluminense, Carioca, or Rio de Janeiro dialect, right? Escola, esquecer, esperar, estudar, os senhores, as folhas. Final set. Or second to last set. I can't tell. Final set. Mesmo, Lisboa, as mãos, nos bancos, os amigos, or even, in Rio, mesmo, Lisboa, as mãos, nos bancos, os amigos. Moving on to the digraph double S. Nossa, passo, nossa, passo. SC, there's a couple of pronunciations. Look at the differences, see if you can figure out why. Nascer, nascer, disciplina, disciplina, as opposed to buscar, pescoço. Similarly, we have the SC cedilha, right? Desço. Again, desço. Let's move on to the T sound. A few different pronunciations based on where it appears. Tudo, tela, fato, lista. Or tio, time. Or gente, amante, vinte. And I think we have what is our final vowel in this lesson, U or U. Usar, mudo, charuto, nunca, comum, Again, that second line, nunca, comum, Third line, água, equestre, equino. Letter V, vazio, lavar, estive, very similar to English. W or W, you see this in a lot of names, brand names, and other words borrowed primarily from English. Webcam, Walter or Walter, PowerPoint, show. Letter X or X. You can see that I have 6 sets here, indicating that the pronunciation of this particular consonant is very tricky and somewhat unpredictable. So these are some example words that might give you a hint. Xadrez, xícara. Xadrez, xícara. Exame, exato. Exame, exato. Taxa, lixo. Taxa, lixo. As opposed to fixo, táxi, máximo, próximo. Those should probably be on different lines. Fixo, táxi, as opposed to máximo and próximo. You can also have it at the end of very few words. Onyx, onyx. And finally, extra, exploração. Extra, exploração. XC or XC is another digraph or 2-letter combination. pronounced as excelente excitação. Excelente excitação. Y or Y, again, in names, brand names, other words borrowed primarily from English. YouTube, YouTube, nylon, layout, Sony. And finally, the letter Z or Z. Listen closely because there are some differences depending on its position or context. Zero, azul, dúzia. Paz, arroz, luz, or in Rio, Carioca speak, paz, arroz, luz, paz e amor, or in Carioca, paz e amor. Paz e amor, or paz e amor. Alright, that concludes Lesson 1 in my basic Brazilian Portuguese course. Hope you found this information on the letters and sounds to be helpful and informative. If so, please share it with others and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, okay? That's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching. This has been Professor Jason. I hope to see you at the next lesson. Então, até mais. Tchau.
Eu vou pra Oslo, pra sair no Oslo